Good afternoon. I'm Beth Copeland with Georgia Christian Business Network, and we are putting God back in business. I'm so excited this afternoon. I have two of my favorite people here with me this afternoon. I get the opportunity and the pleasure to welcome our girls from Tucson here from today, or a couple of our girls. We have others, but I'm so excited about Wellness Wednesday today. As you know, at Georgia Christian Business Network, soon to be global, very, very soon. I'm so excited about that. That's another story. This is a year of higher ground, and I'm excited about what God wants to do in your life, in my life, in your business, in my business this year. And I'm going to tell you what I'm feeling right now, and I've got to get it out early before I introduce or allow Sherry to introduce herself to you today, because she's our guest presenter with the Fantastic Four being away on a rest for today. And it gives an opportunity for not only that for them, but for an opportunity for you to know that there are so many people that are within our network that God has gifted, that have gifted, and that are anointed to be able to present on wellness topics, just like Take Charge Tuesday goes in and out. But what I want to say, and I want to speak to any of those that may be challenged in life right now. Sometimes when I hear and when I speak it, even personally, the year of higher ground, where knowing some of the challenges and the things that are impacting me personally, the opportunity is that, Beth, you're just saying something that sounds good or to make people feel good. No, I'm not. I want to tell you today that I am speaking truth. No matter where you are, no matter what circumstances you may be experiencing right now, I want to assure you that God has a plan and you are part of that plan. And it's planned, although we don't know, we can't probably even figure this out currently. God, what is your plan? It's the year of higher ground, and it's not feeling like higher ground to me. Yeah, but his plan is good and is giving you a future and a hope. So I wanted to share that, and I just had to say that to you this morning. Um, so be encouraged is what I want to say. And Sherry, thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited to have you and the platform as our guest presenter. Would you
Thank you.
please do customary? You know how we do it. We allow an opportunity prior to promote you throughout our network. But the day of, we want you to share with the people who you are, what you do, and why it's important for them to know.
Now I'm going to share my screen if that's okay.
Please, that's fine. Okay.
All right, let's do it. So I'm here to talk to you about imposter syndrome. Can you see my screen all right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's talk about me for just a moment, only a moment, because what I really want you to see is that all our stories matter, and that's what we're talking about. I did not come to Christ until I was 38 years old. So I have a very clear before and after story, which I'm thrilled to be able to share because there's such a difference. I grew up with an alcoholic parent. Insecurity, anxiety, fears, inconsistency, they were emotionally unavailable, failed out of college in my early 20s, stayed in an unhealthy relationship for almost 30 years. But I have a with Christ story. So just to clarify, before Christ, I lied easily because admitting fault, that was too scary. I hurt people with sarcasm. I dismissed their feelings. It was very biting sarcasm because I didn't know how to express my feelings. Wasn't taught that. I believed love was about agreeing with me. If you didn't agree with me, you didn't love me. I couldn't apologize because, again, too scary. But with Christ, I went back to college, got my bachelor's degree, got a master's degree, got certified and licensed as a trauma therapist, did that for over 10 years. I'm still a certified trauma specialist. I'm neuroscience informed. Most important, I am Christ-centered, calm, confident, focused, empowered, which is what I bring in what we're about to talk about. I'm very passionate about helping people live better lives. So you also need to know a little bit personally, I do have 2 adorable dogs. If you hear any squeaky toys, that's my dog. I'm an entrepreneur, and I love to learn and grow and explore and meet people. It's been wonderful. The core of everything I talk about in this presentation about imposter syndrome is that Christ loves you where you are, then loves you to even better. And I'm a living example of that. And we're going to look at other examples. So we're going to start with Moses at the burning bush. Here's our first story, and little bit of background so that we're all on the same level here. This is the Moses that was born a Hebrew. He was the one put in the basket, floated down the Nile River, found by one of Pharaoh's family, taken in because he was a beautiful baby, as the Bible describes. They wanted to raise him as their own, but they had to hide that he was a Hebrew or Israelite because they were only allowed to be slaves. And this Pharaoh's family, with the member that found him, wanted to raise Moses as her own. So she had to hide that. So he was raised as an Egyptian, basically Prince of Egypt. That movie from Disney, Prince of Egypt. That's why. That's the Moses we're talking about. So eventually his heritage was discovered when he was somewhere older. He was stripped of everything. He lost everything. He was thrown out of Egypt. But he created a new life as a shepherd in another country. So where we come into a story, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to listen to me, and I'm going to ask you to notice a few specific verses. This is Exodus 3. This is a picture from the movie The 10 Commandments. It's that Moses. That's who we're talking about. Moses in the burning bush. So I'm reading from Exodus 3, and I'm going to start at verse 2. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. I'm just going to pick and choose. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him, Moses, in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I'll go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn. When the Lord saw that Moses had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, here I am. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to skip ahead to verse 9. This is God speaking from the bush. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh, that's you, Moses, to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. Verse 11, let's listen. But Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? God said, I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. Listen to verse 13. Moses said to God, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. I'll skip ahead a little bit. I'm going to skip to chapter 4, verse 1. Moses answered, we're going to listen here. What if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, the Lord did not appear to you? The Lord said to him, what is that in your hand? A staff, he replied. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and Moses ran from it. Then the Lord said to him, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So Moses reached out and took the snake by this tail, and it turned back into the staff in his hand. Let's skip ahead a little bit to verse 10. Let's listen to verse 10. Moses said to the Lord, Pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past, nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to Moses, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. Verse 13, let's notice. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else. I'm going to skip ahead just a tiny bit. What about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He'll be glad to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help you both, and I will teach you what to do. Okay, so that's all I'm going to read of that story. So what did we see there? I gave this a little subtitle of my own, this section of those verses of the Bible. I said, Moses gives God reasons why Moses is a poor choice for the assignment. So Moses, verse 11 says, who am I? Verse 13, what shall I tell them? 4:1, what if they do not believe me? 4:10, I am slow of speech and tongue. 4:13, please send somebody else. But what did we really see here? God chose Moses, knows Moses. God answered every concern. No answer God gave was enough. God wasn't the problem. Moses' beliefs and mindset were the problem. And that is why I say he had imposter syndrome. So let's look at some dictionary definitions. Imposter syndrome, this is from the dictionary. Psychological condition, persistent doubt, there's Moses, concerning one's abilities and accomplishments, accompanied by fear, there's Moses, of being exposed as a fraud, Moses, despite evidence of one's ongoing success. Now, we don't have enough of Moses' story at this point in the Bible that I just read to know of his ongoing success, but we know that he has done great things already. And God certainly knows. God's not surprised. But here's a more clinical definition from the Journal of Mental Health and Clinical Psychology. A condition, this is not a mental condition, by the way, it's just a thing. A condition describes despite their objective successes, that means everybody else can see them, they fail to internalize their accomplishments, have persistent self-doubt and fear, Moses, being exposed as a fraud or imposter, Moses, do not attribute their performance to their actual competence, instead ascribe their successes to external factors, which we see in Moses too, because he said, I can't send someone else. And God gave him Aaron. So he's not even feeling that he is doing it. He's wants Aaron set up to be the one doing it. So clearly, Moses is our perfect example for imposter syndrome. And remember, I said this has to do with his beliefs and his mindsets. Well, let's talk a moment about what beliefs and mindsets are and where do they come from. All of us have them. We all have beliefs and mindsets, but they come to us. They are learned, which is good because that means they can be unlearned and better things can be learned if that's needed. So our relationship experiences, what we experienced relationally, and that can be any relationship, what we saw of other relationships. What did we experience of compassion? What did we experience of authority figures and what we saw people do? Your culture plays a factor, your genetics play a factor, and there's more. So this is kind of learned into us from very early on. And the other part of that that's important is it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So here I listed some of the very common beliefs and mindsets.
Let's unpack a few things. This is so amazing that how you're sharing this. One of the things, and I didn't know why, because I thought it was related to Moses, and I couldn't recall, why the scripture verbatim, but God placed it on my heart that Romans 2:11, And part of the imposter syndrome that I picked up on is what it says there, for there's no partiality with God. And some other translations may say, God has no respect of person. And what we have a tendency to, when we say imposter, if you backed up to some of the previous slides, and I wanted to be able
Which ones?
to go all the way back, all the way back. I'm sorry, so much right here
Right.
is
Good.
what happened in the burning bush.
Mhm.
Is when you were able to draw some conclusions that what Moses had suffered from in that transaction with God is imposter syndrome. And what happens too much and too often right now in the body of Christ is that is really camouflaged. But that's what is being challenged in individuals, is that we don't know whose we are, number one, who we belong to,
Yes.
and therefore, as a result of that, who we are in Him. And I've
Yes.
said for years, and
I was
heard it so much at a conference last week in Orlando,
yes.
Florida, at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, is you got to know whose you are and who you are in Him. And we put that out
Yes.
there as a high level, but lower level is okay, knowing whose you are and who you are in Him. But how do I embrace that? How do I walk
Yes.
that out?
I
And
will get there. I've got all
yeah,
that covered. Yes.
okay, okay. But I just wanted to say here, though, what you're saying to us right here, um, no answer God gave was enough.
Right.
And God wasn't the problem.
Mm.
I just
Right.
really want to highlight what you've highlighted here is Moses's beliefs and mindsets were the
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
And knowing whose you are starts with you, and it impacts every relationship thereafter. So I just wanted to kind of chime that in right there and let you continue to flow. But I wanted to put that out there. Uh, and Shirley Wood, thank you for joining us. Pamela Bridgman Bartell, all of these over on the Facebook side of the house. And Shirley comments, I have felt that at times. Please send someone else, like Moses, when God chose Moses. And I think
Right.
that's so key that we recognize that we're chosen by God. Thanks,
Yeah.
Sherry. Continue to help us.
Yes. So just a reminder that beliefs and mindsets, we all have them. So some of them are great for us, some of them not so great for us, some of them neutral. That's not the point. The point is they're shaped into us, they're learned into us. We can change them once we recognize them, and they're not your fault. And we're going to work on that. So these are some of the common ones: perfectionism, fear of judgment. We do those comparisons that always have us looking less than. It's too hard. We tell ourselves it's too hard. That's one of mine, honestly. That's too hard. Not enough, fear of failure. I know we all relate with at least one thing in there, right? So, why does all this matter? Because all of these things, mindsets, perceptions, self beliefs, even time constraints and stress levels, they shape how we interpret our relationships at any moment in time with God, with ourselves, with others. So, it's important that we know this, and I will tell you how. So I thought this was kind of fun. This isn't really Christian, but I thought kind of normalizing in a sense. Um, Try to guess who this is. This is a quote from someone super duper famous. I still sometimes feel like a loser kid in high school. I just have to pick myself up, tell myself that I'm a superstar every morning so I can get through this day and be for my fans what they need for me to be. Any guesses as to who that came from? All right, you ready? Lady Gaga. While we're not talking Christian here right now, I want you to see how this is just human. It's just human. So let's take the stigma out of it, because once we take the stigma out of it, that actually starts loosening its hold on us right there. And we can look at it more honestly, and then we can start healing from it. It was very easy for me to find a list of other very, very famous people that admit to imposter syndrome. Again, I want to normalize this and take out the stigma so that we can stop feeling so bad about that which actually increases its hold over us. So once we can take away the stigma and just see it as human, then we can start making it better for us.
And even Moses, God chose him, being
Right.
chosen by God. I see Lady
Right.
Gaga and all of those, Tom Hanks, Maya Angelou. I mean, people
Right.
respect other people. And I
Right.
don't want to get ahead of you because I believe you're going to pull this out, but I'm going to talk about comparisons and the detriment to that. Because although this is friend in some regard, when we look at Moses, we've got to normalize that I've been chosen by God and saying that and being okay with saying that I've been chosen by God and give other people permission to say, you've been chosen by God as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I love this list. I'm like, seriously? These people,
Yeah.
Williams?
Albert Einstein. Okay.
Right. Right. But it is human. So let's
Yeah.
I'm going to start pulling all this together. Okay. Imposter syndrome. What have we learned so far? What it is, it's an emotion-based disconnect from facts and reality. It's not a mental condition. Okay. Please don't get that confused. It's a normal human brain thing. Right. But we're no longer of this world. We're no longer of this world. But let's just recognize what imposter syndrome is. And this is Sherry's definition: emotion-based disconnect from facts and reality, because we're not taking in that God chose us, God gifted us, God. It's learned from learned beliefs and mindsets. Self-perception, not such a good self-perception, is shaped into us. It's very common. It's very human. And I want to add, because this is my specialty area, it is part of fight, flight, freeze, which is something else we don't acknowledge enough. But that's a different story. But let's also be very clear on what imposter syndrome is not. It is not who you are. It is not permanent. It is not unique to you. It's not your fault. It's not a character flaw. It's not the end of your story. There's no period there. It's not the end of your story. It's not fatal. It may feel really awful, may feel really uncomfortable. It is not fatal. Nobody died of imposter syndrome. So I'm going to walk you through how I'm suggesting you kind of look at yourself. Here's an exercise I'm going to walk you through. We're going to take each one of Moses' statements and we're going to break it down. Okay. So when Moses says, who am I? Who am I to go do this? What is he really saying that we can all relate to? He's saying, I'm not qualified, right? There's one guess of what he's saying. I'm not qualified. We all can think that at times. So then let's break that down even further to using my list of the common mindset blocks. I call those mindset blocks. Maybe there's perfectionism, fear of judgment, fear of failure. Once you break this down, then you have something easier to grasp and take care of. If we think of imposter syndrome, it's big, but let's break it down into smaller pieces and look at each element at play. When Moses says, what shall I tell them? He's going through what ifs, right? So he's coming up with his list of what ifs. That's very human. What ifs? Well, what if they said this? What if they said this? What if they said this? And what if they asked me this? That's what he's doing. Well, those are should, supposed to. Like, I should be able to have all the answers. A leader is supposed to know how to take care of these things. And he doesn't. He forgets that God said, I'm right there with you. He feels like he has to do it all. He's not enough. He's right. I am not enough. But he's forgetting that God is undergirding everything. Another what if? What if they do not believe me? Right? So again, it's perfectionism, fear of judgment, fear of failure. So we're taking each statement and breaking it down, figuring out what's really behind it so that you can address the root causes. The root causes are the issue, not imposter syndrome. The root causes are the issue. So what is he saying? I am slow of speech and tongue. Comparison right there. There's your comparison. Others are better. That's what he's saying, right? He's doing a comparison. Shoulds and supposed tos. Shoulds. Leaders are supposed to speak in a certain way, right? That's what he's saying. And again, I'm not enough. So please, finally he was honest and said the whole thing. Please send someone else. He's probably afraid. You know what? This is the statement for me. This is the statement where I'm like, Moses, I get you. I totally get you there. He was basically embarrassed and humiliated from a human perspective when he was last in Egypt, when he was last in front of Pharaoh. Why would he want, on a human level, why would he want to go back? He's afraid, perhaps ashamed, perhaps embarrassed, fear of judgment, fear of failure. But
Sherry, okay, go ahead, make that statement.
The thing is, given his history, he's the perfect choice. And God knows that. He's the perfect choice.
This is so powerful. And I wish and I hope that the audience that we had for Bill Blaine's Take Charge Tuesday on yesterday will circle back, because I alluded without knowing what you were going to talk about today. And I talked about you and what you would bring to the table would actually be a great follow-up from what I perceived or discerned, in my knowing you, just reading the title. And the title is pulling and compelling, but I knew you would go deeper, like right here. And this is exactly where Bill was yesterday, because he talked about humility as our opportunity and embrace it. He separated humbleness from, even though they're in the same root, made humble and humility and opportunity. Yeah, for sure. And, when we do that, when we show, it's all about love. And so Moses was the perfect choice. And everything that he used to eliminate himself as being the perfect choice was the very, from my perspective, this Beth Copeland, was the very opportunity that placed him in lineup for God to be able to have chosen him. See, I love it. Man looks at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. And some people, the things that Moses was saying about him, because I believe he hadn't embraced his true identity. And that's what Bill was talking to us about yesterday is, humility and true identity go hand in hand. Because when we say, I can't, what we should be follow up with, but I can through Christ who strengthens me, Philippians 4:13, because it's not our old nature, our old self, but it's putting on, as Colossians says, the new man, put on. So I love this. I'm excited about this. And I know I have to promote this out, because there are people that are going to miss the opportunity to fully process out all that Bill shared with us on yesterday. Because this is the excellent follow-up.
Oh, that's exciting. That's really exciting. So let's go to our star. This is our star, and as far as imposter syndrome goes, the Apostle Paul. I'm focusing on the thorn in the flesh story, which is in 2 Corinthians 12. Before we go there, a little bit of history, because this is very important, because everybody's story matters. So I gave you my history, Moses' history. We're looking at Paul's history, and we know where the rest of them went, right? And you know where I went, because God intervened. So here we are with Paul. So Paul was a devout Pharisee, educated, born into the Pharisees. And reminder, that's the religious leaders. That's the group of religious leaders, one of the groups of religious leaders who wanted Jesus dead, crucified, gone. That's who Paul was. His name at the time was different, but that's okay. He gave orders and oversaw the murders of many followers of Jesus. I'm going to use very strong language here because it's so important to understand where he came from. And then God got hold of him and he was commissioned to spread the gospel to the Gentiles. Now, of anyone who deserved to feel imposter syndrome, I'm saying it's Paul. Why didn't Paul have imposter syndrome? He didn't. He basically went from the Pharisees, one side of the camp, to the enemy camp, the Jesus followers. He switched sides. He did a whole 180. Now, why doesn't he have imposter syndrome? And we'll go over that. This is the whole section I'm going to focus on right now. It's only a few verses. I'm going to read it for you. I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan, to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So what do we see?
Love it.
Paul went to God. He took his issue to God, no hesitation. He asked for exactly what he wanted. He wanted God to take it away. He asked for exactly what he wanted. And he asked for it over and over until he got an answer. When he got an answer, he accepted, embraced, fully took in God's answer. And he learned from there. He realized that whatever God is giving him, it's for his benefit. And more of the story, which I didn't read, this was to refocus Paul, kind of a correction, a little bit of a correction, to refocus Paul on what was important. Paul's beliefs and mindsets were focused on God. We're focused on God. So I'm going to wrap everything up right now. Okay. And we're going to go into steps. I got steps for you on how to not fall into or how to conquer imposter syndrome. So let's really wrap this up. What did we learn from Moses? God knows you. Be completely honest. Moses basically argued with God. God didn't care. He's okay with that. Do it. Argue with God. God can handle your worries and fears. God also supplies all your needs. God gave Moses his brother Aaron to help him. God knew Moses was perfectly capable of doing it all by himself. But God also gave him Aaron. God gives you the strength to do his will. God has a plan for you. God has a plan and you are part of it.
Awesome. This is awesome.
My longer version has the Samaritan woman in it. So I'm going to skip over this. Let's go to Paul. Know who you are in God. Paul knew who he was in God. Paul was the one stopped on the road to Damascus who got the bright light, blinded for 3 days. He got a huge download of the truth. That's how he was able to do his 180. He got a huge download of the truth. He understood everything. God equips you. God equipped Moses. God equipped Paul. God equips you. You're not in this on your own. Remember, Moses, all of his excuses, I'm going to call them, they were coming from, I have to figure this out and I have to do this on my own. And how often do we all do that? We all do that at some point in time. God wants you to ask him for what you need, and you can ask it in any way that you want. And God will answer your prayer. The thing is, are you listening? Are we, am I, Sherry, listening to the answer God's giving versus the answer we want? And these are the things that distinguished Paul. This is what made him very different. The other piece to this, because this is really humanly, I'm going to say near impossible, to delight in weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, difficulties. What did Paul do? He let go of control. He didn't try to control anything. He didn't try to control anything in there. Once he got his answer from God, he fully embraced it, fully took it in, and he started getting excited because he knew that God was doing a work. That's how he was able to rejoice in his weakness. And we can do the same. God is always doing a work. Always. We're not done. We're not done here. We're never done here. We're in constant growth and constant refining. And Paul was able to recognize that. So just a reminder, we have, these are very common, what I call mindset blocks. We all have had some form of these somewhere along the way. We're going to look at what they really amount to. Holding too tightly to this world. As you said earlier, we need to hold loosely. Forgetting that God already saw you through so many things. Why wouldn't he see you through this next thing? And not trusting in God to guide you again. Guide us, me. We all do this, right? But let's recognize what it is so that we can change it. Just a quick review. Imposter syndrome, emotion-based disconnect from facts and reality. It's learned. It's shaped into you. It's common. It's human. Part of fight, flight, freeze, another story. It is not who you are. It is not permanent, not your fault. No period there. It's not the end of your story. It's not fatal. So here's your steps. Step one, always step one, pray. We have Apostle Paul's example, beautiful example. He prayed repeatedly until he heard the answer. And he asked for exactly what he wanted. He wanted the thorn removed. That wasn't God's plan. So Paul did not get upset when he heard God's answer, which was contradictory to what Paul asked for. But it's still an answer. And that's the beautiful answer. That's the one we really want. We want God's way. And then always, it helps us to practice. Pray to see yourself as God does. Pray to see yourself and others as God does. Because we don't see clearly. We need God to tell us. We need it. We don't know. Step two is really, really, really important too. Those mindset blocks, as I call them, they're going to rear up when we don't take care of ourselves. Because we're putting ourselves at a disadvantage. So if we're not relaxed, if we're not taking care of our mind and body and soul and spirit, if we're not practicing self-compassion and self-grace, we are much more prone to those mindset blocks. And they'll get deeper and deeper. Doesn't mean they can't be fixed, but they get deeper. If we forget that we need fun and play and laughter, we need it. Just basic things. Are you eating properly? Are you resting? Are you thirsty? Take care of that. Are you lonely? Take care of that. Are you tired? Take care of that. Often taking care of some of these basic things will change our mindset in that moment. Because sometimes we're that simple. Other times we're very complex, but sometimes we're that simple. Go get a glass of water. You're thirsty. It's making your mindset go in a direction that's not so great. Amazing that simple thing can make a big change. It can. So these are always step one and step two. Focus on what you do well. We have a tendency to keep focusing on what we've not done well, what hasn't gone right for us, what we wanted to do differently. That's a very human way of being. We have to purposefully and intentionally focus on what we've done well, not to dismiss the other things because they're reality too, but to more balance it out because you're not just the things that didn't go well. You are all the things that also went very well. So focus on your strengths and gifting. Focus on the identified issue. When you focus on the identified issue, you're increasing its power over you. So if we keep focusing on, I have imposter syndrome, you're actually increasing its hold over you. After you've prayed, after you've taken care of, done some basic human taking care of yourself, look at what has gone well. Remember that God's been there all along. Step 4, identify those beliefs and mindsets like we did with Moses. So imposter syndrome, like I said, that's big. Make it smaller by looking at the individual under what are those roots? Look at the roots. Start breaking those roots. That's much simpler than trying to attack something large, right? That's what we did, like I showed you with Moses' conversation with God. And confess them. Don't hold them in. Confess them. That by itself can release the power over you. There's a lot of things that we can do that are not very complicated that will help us be much, much better. Those lists we made, that list of what I showed you of what we learned from Moses and Paul, go over that list over and over and over. Go over that list, that God was there, that God doesn't mind that I argue with him, that God has an answer for me, that I'm going to listen for God's actual answer. Remind yourself, go over those and over those and over those and over those. It's actually teaching your brain to become more focused on God. And rejoice in your weaknesses. Let's use Paul's example. Rejoice in your weaknesses. That's one of the reasons why I love sharing my before Christ and after Christ story. And even in my with Christ story, I'm still full of weaknesses. And that is okay, because God's teaching me all along the way. And I will be happy to talk about any of them. And by the way, you're human. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up. So let's remove the stigma for some of that too. You're going to mess up. And the most important piece, your worth and value are beyond measure because of Christ, not because of what you do or don't do or mess up or do well, or not any of that. It's because of Christ. Know who you are in God's heart. And in one sense, which is why I gave my story too, in one sense, we're all imposters. Who am I? I used to be lying a lot and I would be very sarcastic. Who am I to be giving you this message right now? In a sense, I'm an imposter, but I'm not, because of God. But God. God is in control. Not me, not any of us. God is in control. God puts us in places. None of us deserve or have earned or can earn the blessings and grace and compassion and forgiveness that we have received, continue to receive, and will continue to receive. We haven't earned it. We don't deserve it, except for Christ. Except for Christ. So
I am so excited, about what you shared. And before you, let me let you do your final slide so that we can stop the share, because I just let you flow, because I really wanted to get this recorded so that people will have the opportunity to just see a process. And how do I get, and I'm going to call it like this, you can push back if you like, deliverance is what I want to say, because that's what we stand in need of, is deliverance from being who the world says we are, even who sometimes we think we are because we're confused. But the opportunity is deliverance. Do your final slide, then I'll let you stop sharing, because there are a couple of things that before we have to conclude that
Perfect.
I'd love to revisit. Although without the slide, I can do it without the slide.
And I have one more, and I will get through those. So again, like I said in the beginning, the core to everything is Christ loves you where you are, then loves you into even better. Christ loves you where you are, then loves you into even better. So just these last two, if you would like to work with me, I have an upcoming live group coaching and webinar series coming up. And I want to there's so much involved. I don't want to spend a lot of time going over this. This is on the websites, but I want to give everyone in GCBN a 20% discount off of this. Here's my QR code. Use the coupon code GCBN20 to get your 20% discount. This is a 6 weeks intensive dig deep. We will really dig into fear of rejection, criticism and judgment, distrust, difficult to trust, trusting God and others, and needing to have control, order, and be in charge. We'll really dig into those. So I invite you to work with me, and I'm so thrilled to have been able to give this presentation. Thank
Awesome,
you. I will
awesome,
stop
awesome.
sharing.
And I'm going to start with this opportunity that she's promoting because I believe in, I mean, even before today, I believe, but even more so, the effectiveness of what you have to offer. What we're going to do at GCBN, because we believe in what she's teaching and what she's offering and the impact, we want to offer another 10% off. So when you
Oh,
sign up from Sherry, okay, you're going to get a rebate from GCBN. I don't know. Sherry and I'll figure out how to make that happen. So that I believe in this. I believe in what you're sharing, and we want people to be well and healed because we look at the total person at GCBN, i.e., Wellness Wednesday. We don't just throw the business acumen out there. And we want you to learn how to do business, the how to do business, and to glean from other powerful entrepreneurs as to experience and all of that. Business acumen is awesome and necessary and urgent and important. But yet, what COVID taught us, if we're not well, if we're not whole, we need Wellness Wednesday, is what we learned. And we have LCSWs, therapists, coaches that takes the platform, like Susan and yourself, the Fantastic Four, to be able to facilitate that. And so I want to put, you know, our talk with the walk. If someone's interested, I want to encourage you to be interested. And I want to be able to share in your growth and your development because this is a year of higher grounds. And because Susan made me recall in her chat to me, mountains are calling you higher, but you have to respond that I want to go. And Sherry, there's a couple of things I threw them out there in the notes in the chat so that I wouldn't forget to say them. Again, Bill Blaine, I think they marry so perfectly, and I want to connect you with Bill. Is on my
oh,
heart as well. He's a excuse me, an awesome leader. I'm going to be on his platform soon, and if he doesn't have space, I want to give up my space if he'll allow you to take it because
oh my goodness.
I'm hoping Bill will, and I just know him. I wrote him, he was on my heart. So I sent him an email like at 7:30 this morning. I mean, earlier I had awakened with him on my heart, my mind, just telling him how powerful it was. I'm giving you your email now. This was powerful. Okay. And so, but I think the two of you have something, what he offered yesterday. And when I do the intro, I'm also going to tag him in your face in Facebook group so that he can also watch the replay. But I do believe there's a connection. And so I'm spending time saying this here on this particular podcast because I want people to watch Bill first, then come behind and to hear what you're saying. Okay. Because it's just such a powerful deliverance is what and Susan's giving me permission to call it deliverance. Susan, do you have anything to say over this? I mean, how can you not? I know you do. I want to hear just quickly if you would. Yeah.
Well, I did say in the chat that we need people in our communities. I'm all about community, and Sherry is a community, and we need people in our communities like Sherry who can help us through all this, who can support us,
Mm,
and who can give us
mm,
the tools. The reason we come to Wellness Wednesday, some of us, is because we don't have the tools. We know we need them, we desire them, and we desire them through God. And when you find somebody who's a gem that God has placed, he also didn't ever pick the highest of the high to be used by him. He usually picked the bottom of the barrel or the bottom of the well, if you want to go to the Samaritan woman. He didn't do that. He built everybody, even Jesus himself, made himself a servant, made himself humble and low so that he could bring us to higher ground. And so I support Sherry in everything she does. And I know she's fantastic. Heard her before and a part of some of her talks. And it's a great opportunity to get yourself well in this area.
I thank you for saying that. And what an endorsement from an awesome friend. And that is on that level, that is a business knowledge expert in this regard as well. So I'm so glad to have you as a GCBN corporate member and a part of GCBN. But can I tell you, as also a part of the Wellness Wednesday platform that facilitates that wholeness for people to get well. I want to read Philippians 2, and y'all know it, 5 and 6. We could quote it, but I want to read it because I don't want to mess it up at all. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God. No imposter syndrome there, right? Oh man, but made himself of no reputation. See, the difference in imposter syndrome and being complete and whole and knowing who you are and whose you are is the difference in right here. He made himself of no reputation. He had a reputation. The imposter syndrome will inflate you to believe that you need to make yourself of some reputation, and what we want to do is humble ourselves under the mighty hand of God, and He will exalt us. We don't have to exalt ourselves. We don't have to get into the comparisons of what Susan and Sherry are doing and pretend that I'm called to do that. No, God has created me. Paul said, comparing ourselves against ourselves is not wise. In 2 Corinthians 10, I love that. That's where I believe imposter syndrome comes, is the world tries to create this space of who I need to be. And then he'll show us, listen, I'm going to be transparent. He'll show us people that's doing that, and your ministry is at that level, or but you skip and forget the uniqueness and the awesomeness. And you tell God, and this is where I have to do it with me. I call God a liar when I start to say that somebody else, He made them better. I'm lying to God, because He says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and that marvelous are His works in me. And my soul needs to know that right well. But when I speak to the contrary of that, am I not only disobeying, but calling God a liar? Am I saying,
So
God, you don't know what you're talking about?
yeah, right. And that's okay, because God will teach us. God will teach us. Because remember, the most important thing, well, not the most important thing. One of the things is not to focus on. That's why I'm like, remove stigma, remove stigma. God knows exactly all our mess. He knows us. Okay, He knows us so much better than we do. He's not upset when we do things, when we basically call Him a liar. He
Right, right.
understands.
But
He
my
understands.
point is
Yes.
this, is to be able to embrace the truth is urgent. And I mean, even as you said, Lady Gaga, I love it. Getting up every morning, rehearsing it. It's not easy. And if I'm
Yes.
making it sound as if it's easy, then I'm out of order here. But what
Easy.
I'm trying to say, it's a constant. That's why we have to read the same scriptures over and over again. Because if I'm not reading them, I can forget them and I can mess them up. Meditate in my word day and night.
Yes.
Psalms 119, hide the word in my heart that what? I sin not against God. Because it's easy to get confused in conflicting statements, how you're treated. Things
Yes.
of your past resurfacing from 50 years ago when you knew not know God and you were young and foolish and in your teens can come up. Hey, I know. Ask me. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But mistakes, that's what Bill talked about. We love to dwell on those and fail to dwell on repentance and forgiveness, which is God's grace to us. And his desires to restore us. Hey, we're ministers of reconciliation. So if I'm a minister of reconciliation, I know how I need to know and learn how to be reconciled to God. You know, I love this. I love this. I love this. We could talk about this all day. I even thought
Yes.
about it that if I had known the depth of it, I think I would have done a carrot. It's what Bill talked about, that a carrot hanger or whatever, a cliffhanger or something like that. He was taught, I forget how he named it, related to a carrot, dangle the carrot, but not for the purpose of dangling the carrot, but for the
Yeah, I
purpose
guess.
of saying, we need to do this in two parts. I wouldn't mind if next time you rotate around, I'm not trying to tell you, you do what God tells you to do, but this could be revisited. It is definitely a need. It's a great opportunity for us to be able to become whole, because we can't do this business. We can't do this life without knowing whose we are, not to the fullness. We can do it in a mediocrity, in mediocrity, but to do it in excellence requires knowing whose we are and who we are in Him and fully walking that out. That's all I want to say. We're at the deadline. I'm going to ask you to close us with a couple of points in just a second, but I got a good little bit of homework, so y'all bear with us. We started about 12:03, so we're going to end in the next 3 minutes. So y'all hang with us. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for the people that made the comments over on the Facebook side of the house. Susan, thank you for staying with us and supporting us today. I want to tell you that we're doing a great work here at Georgia Christian Business Network. We're putting God back in business. Visit our website, gcbnetwork.com. We need your support as a member, as a sponsor. Go out there. Look for an opportunity how you can join. Look for an opportunity how you can sign up for an upcoming event. It's not on the website yet, but it will be. Reserve the date, June 8th. Food is not the boss of me. It's a book that I've written, a devotional. I'm going to start marketing it this week. It's a great opportunity, and we're going to do this conference all around that. Dr. Brandon Mines has agreed to be our keynote. He's a head doctor over on the staff at Emory, and he's also the team doctor for some of the NFL women's professional teams, and he's going to support that. I'm partnering with Juice Plus. Our dear friend, Julie Mills, is going to, she's also a NACWE sister and on my steering team as the Atlanta director of the National Association of Christian Women Entrepreneurs. She's on my team. But she and I are partnering under Juice Plus to facilitate this conference, and it is going to be amazing. It's going to be offered virtually, okay, parts of it, so that you can glean as a GCBN member or any community members. It's a fee associated, but an abbreviated fee for GCBN members, because we want you to be able to experience this conference wherever you are. So the opportunity is also, today is the last day for God Golfing Girls Early Bird. You can still get tickets up until about July, but we need to close out the early bird opportunity today. Please reach out if you're interested, because we can also help you save some money. Won't tell you on air how to do that, but if you really are interested, we can help you to be able to save a few dollars and register under early bird today. Okay, listen, women, if you've not experienced God Golfing Girls, you are in for a treat. It's a 3-day weekend, Friday through therapeutic, Saturday transformation, and Sunday triumphant. We had 85 plus women in attendance covering about 7, 8, 9 states. Okay, last year. God is going to do even greater. It's not so much having the number, it's the need and fulfilling the need, and people need to come and experience. It's an investment in yourself. I want to tell you, feedback even this morning. I came from a meeting. Sherry knows I barely got here at 10 till to be able to facilitate the show. I sit on the board for Family Promise of Gwinnett. 2 women I've never met before immediately said, we're coming. I mean, it's just amazing. And so God is doing a new things. We need sponsors as well. If you're in a position to be a sponsor, I'm happy to announce I saw a text from Heather Rawson, who is the national president of National Association of Christian Women Entrepreneurs and the owner. Sent me a text. They're sponsoring. NACWE is going to be one of our sponsors again this year. Erica Jackson is our Platinum Plus sponsor out of CYE Incorporated in our Jacksonville, Florida. She's a dear friend and just a wonderful person. She'll be there. She's on the platform presented. Heather's going to be on the platform as well. So I took a minute to talk about that because it's so important that you express your desire to be a part of GGG this year. Sherry, you have given me so much joy today. And I just want to say again, sincerely on air, thank you, thank you, thank you for the work that God has called you to do to free other people. And as much as possible that I can promote that through our GCBN offering of a 10% discount on that special pricing of $700, you go out there and you do it. And I'm going to, you know what, before I take it back, I'm going to add much more to it. I'm in need, sow a seed. If you have a need, sow a seed. I'll do it twice. We'll do it twice. We will do it twice. We'll do 10% for 2 people. Okay.
Wow.
Let's do it. Let's do it. But you got to sow. And I'm going to say this, and I know we're over, so you're going to give our closing statement. But I got to say something to people. We got to learn how to sow. Gracious giving. We didn't give the acronym for higher, but the G is gracious giving. We got to learn how to be able to understand God's way of giving. Luke 6:38, read it. But what we make happen for others, God will make it happen for us. As I sit here, if you really knew how many sponsors I need and don't have yet, and I'm telling Sherry that I'm up to $100 almost $50 now. But it's God and being obedient to what he says, because he gives the foolish things to confound the wise. So God has a plan and you're a part of it. Sign up with her. And then sign up for GGG as well. Okay. Sherry, what are your final closing points for us?
I think always pray for God to help you see yourself as God sees you, and to see
Awesome.
others as God sees them. And I don't think we're taught that enough. Like, pray to see yourself as God sees you, because we have the world pressing in on us, trying to shape us and tell us certain things. And most of that is lies. We are God's. We're not of this world. We need God's direction to figure out who we really are.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much. What a beautiful closing.
Thank you for
Look
having
forward
me.
to seeing you guys next week for Take Charge Tuesday at noon. I'm so excited. Carol Love, I believe, is on. Oh, I have another meeting. I'm sorry. Carol Love is on our platform next week, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. But at any rate, check out our website and you'll see it out there. Thank you for joining us. Again, Susan, you're a blessing. Those of you that are watching the replay, thank you. Give us some comments. Give Sherry some feedback. And don't forget to watch Bill Blaine and then watch Sherry again as well. God bless you. Take care. Have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye now.